Alrighty, so we had the opportunity to interview a friend of ours, Koty Dowell, and we also had some technical difficulties there. So the first about 8 minutes we had to chop off because the audio was coming in really weird. We ended up taking it off video and just doing an audio only. But you'll see a little bit of a weird start when you click play on the on this episode. Just as a heads up, it smooths out right about the 1 minute mark in. So if you hang on a little bit, you won't have those audio issues. But so, what were your thoughts, Matt, on the discussion with Koty and maybe some of the highlights there?
It was really good. He did a great job. He's always good at speaking, and I've always been interested in hearing kind of what he has to say in person. A couple of the things I think that really stood out to me is where he kind of came from, and right off the bat in the beginning, where he started at. And I think he got invited over to a ranch that his cousin worked, and he had never had any experience at all. And he said it was just it all kind of just went horrible as far as like not having any experience. But I think that's a good thing to remember for anyone and everyone, that at some point in time you got to start somewhere. I think he got hooked on it and then stuck with it, and used some of his words. He suck for a long time before things started to kind of smooth out, so to speak. But anyway, that was one of the things that stood out to me.
I was really impressed with from the beginning when he started. He didn't really have a background personally in horses and cattle or anything, but he kind of got a little bit of a taste of it, realized he wanted to do it, and then figured out a way to get involved, including moving around. And then when they were a freshly married couple, they had to make a lot of sacrifices financially, which you always expect, and also hardship wise, to be able to live a life that they wanted to live. So I think that was unique to me, and I think kind of underscored some of the things we already knew about how Koty kind of got into the business that he's in now. But it was pretty cool to hear the story. Pretty, I guess, challenging again to hear like the things that he and his family do and prioritize to live the life that they're able to live. And I think one of the things we started out in the intro was that someone told them about the fact that they get to really live a dream life, which I think is accurate, because a lot of people would say that the life they're living, a lot of people would say, man, that'd be just a cool life to live. But I think the story that we in the interview through the interview, you can kind of hear the background about why. Yep, it is a dream life. It is maybe an enviable life, but there's a lot of sacrifice that went into making that happen. So I
Yeah.
think that really stood out for me. And of course, Koty has a good sense of humor and always makes things fun. So that was a cool part of that as well. So anything
Yeah.
else you think we highlight before we roll into the episode?
The things that kind of went on in his life. Super cool from the outside looking in at how great that lifestyle looks, but also the sacrifice that comes along with it. And I think too, just not understanding what people have to give up financially a lot of times, because I mean, based off the way he talked, and conversations I've had with him before, like sometimes I mean you're trying to pull money out of places where it's not at, or just to kind of hustle. That's not going to be the heroic side for anyone. So I appreciate that part of it, and like you said, he's got a good sense of humor, and really appreciate you know how he is as far as including his family. And if you look up any of his stuff, I think that's KTD Services. Is that what it is? On his
Yeah, I think you're right. KTD Equine or something. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep. I guess
yeah,
I should
pretty,
add
pretty
this part of the thing, but yeah.
Yeah, pretty cool. If you're looking for any of that, him and his wife and his kid are all involved in it. He's got his daughter. I mean, his daughter is training her own horses and sells them and does the whole deal as well too. So really cool, that aspect of it for the family part, like that we've always talked about. That like I think he's able to balance the work that he loves and involve his wife and his kid in it, and that's really cool. Um,
Yeah.
for me. I think that's a goal for me to be able to, do something and you know, I think you're working on it now, and I do as much as I can to where we can involve our kids as much as we can in the things that have to be done, but also the things that we like to do as well.
Yeah,
So that was a really cool part of it, and like I said, I think that all of those kind of things align with the ideas and the goals that we have. So super cool guy to talk to, and the Top Hand Clinic. If you want a good clinic to go to, Top Hand Clinic, that ministry really great. You get to work cattle and talk about your faith. So there's not a whole lot better than that.
for sure. Yeah, great points all around. And I think this was definitely one of those things we knew we were going to enjoy talking to Koty. He's fun to talk to anytime. But I think starting a podcast, our goal was to be able to talk to people that we enjoyed hearing their stories, and this is a great example of that. Just
Yeah,
good to talk to, good to
absolutely.
hear the story, good to get some background on a life that someone's been able to build for themselves and for their family. So
Yep. Nope.
off
Agreed.
we go.
There we go.
In line with this idea of trying to go out and figure out how you want to live a life that you want to live, that's impactful, but where you're not compromising everything for money or whatever
Oh
those
yeah.
things are most people chase. And I remember you were talking at the one Top End clinic about an encounter you had. I don't remember where it was, but someone was like, you should be thankful. I don't know if they were talking down to you or just saying you should be thankful that you all get to live a life people dream of. And that stuck out because you were saying, yeah, you were grateful for it, but on the other hand, I'm thinking, yeah, but I mean, I know like all the stuff that Koty, I don't know all the stuff. I know some of the stuff that you all have to do, like working horses, working in the cold,
Yeah.
standing under horses, working idiot horses,
Oh
all
yeah.
that stuff that goes into like actually resulting in you getting to live a dream life. Most people would never think of. They're like, I'm not going to do that. That's stupid. I'm just not
Oh
going to put up with it. So
yeah.
that kind of put me on to the idea that I mean, yeah, it's a dream life, but there's a whole lot that you and your family like give
Mhm.
up to kind of make that dream life happen. So that was part of the rationale on my end for wanting to hear kind of how
Yeah.
you got to where you are, and then how you kind of prioritize that. So
Yeah.
that's the high level overview. Um,
Yeah. And I think a lot of that has to do with perspective too.
yeah.
So like, because
Better. So when did you start out like riding horse or thinking about doing cowboy stuff?
I grew up actually playing sports. So I played every sport. Well, I feel like up until like middle school, and then for middle school, I broke my ankle playing football. So then I switched from like playing every sport. I specialized at all. I wasn't for that, but I just played baseball through high school. Um,
Nice.
and then
Pitcher, shortstop, what position?
I mainly was a catcher up until like my senior year, and I think my year of high school, I started almost every single position at least one game. So I was kind of everywhere. I was the jack of all trades and not, but yeah, I played baseball and I actually didn't really sit on a horse. I didn't do anything until between my year of high school. So I
So
went.
speaking of jack of all trades, so how'd you go from baseball to even thinking about working cows?
It wasn't so much the cows; it was the horse side of it. I really liked the horse. And I did like the cows because the cows gave the horses purpose. Um, so like it was my between the summer between my junior year of high school and my senior year of high school. Um, I had a cousin that had gone
Yeah.
between my junior year of high school and my senior year of high school. I went to North Central Colorado, kind of where we go right now for our seasonal job. Um, a cousin of mine had taken a ranch management here and asked me to come out and cut some hay with them and like just drive the rake and the baler and all sorts of
Hmm.
stuff. Um, but in the mornings there was still dew on the grass, so we got to go ride through cows and rope and do doctoring and stuff. And like
Really?
I was pretty hooked from that. Like I had strawberries on the insides of my thighs and was miserable, but I wanted to ride a horse in the morning. So I didn't even care about the hay side of stuff, but I came back and quit baseball and all sorts of stuff. And like once I graduated high school, I did school and went to school at an ag school and get a degree. And, like it kind of spiraled out from there. I got a job on a farm and stayed with it from college all the way about the time that I was graduating college. Where I met my wife pretty quick. because we got married pretty quick, I got jobs. I went to work. We've done ranch jobs all the way up until.
Yeah, let's try no video.
How about,
Okay, so I heard the first part. Um, you were introducing. You said you went out to your cousins.
yep. So we
There we
actually
go.
work.
Now,
We
now
work.
you're loud and clear.
Yeah. So we actually work for them seasonally now. That's what we do for our 6 month, like 6 months from about the middle of May until the 1st of October. We'll be in North Central Colorado, and we work for a cousin that I have, and he has ranched up in there since like 2007, 2006. Um,
Okay.
but at that time, that was whenever I was between my junior and senior years of high school. So between those years, I went up and I helped him with some hay and stuff that he was needing help with. But we got to ride through some cattle that he was taking care of in the mornings, and kind of from there, it was like I came home and didn't want to play sports anymore. I kind of quit and ended up finding a horse to buy by the time that I graduated high school and some stuff. So yeah, it just everything
Nice.
took a turn. Like I found what kind of I felt like was my purpose or what I really enjoyed even more so. Like I found quote unquote some success in the horse stuff just because it was more peaceful or I had a lot more peace with it or a lot more enjoyment with it.
Right on. And I heard you start to mention something about like that some of your first days riding being sore. Like, had you been on horses before, or did you just show up at the ranch and get
No,
thrown
it
on something?
was it was pretty like cold turkey as far as like just going from 0 to 100 right off the bat. So
Wow.
yeah, like had I kind of learned how to ride just through trial by fire pretty much. Like we had to go trot 8 or 10 miles through the sagebrush and I had never ridden a horse, so my trot I feel bad for that horse now because my trotting was probably not super graceful.
I can imagine. Eight to 10 miles of bouncing trotting is really just the best way to figure it out, right?
Oh, I mean, I guess it was for me.
Nice. Right on. I'm still amazed that you're saying you basically went out to the ranch. He's like, hey, come out here. I'm going to throw you on a horse. We're going to ride around. And you hadn't been on a horse or anything, and you just said, hey, I like it. I'm going to be back, even though I can't feel my inner thighs right now.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, it was like yeah. I'd kind of been growing up. I had
Hmm.
family members that had some cows or had some horses and stuff like that. So like, I knew about them, and I always liked the pony rides at the carnivals and stuff like that. But
Nice.
yeah, it was. I had no knowledge of horses or training or
So
anything like that going into that experience and I can't remember if that was the summer of 2006 or 2007, but yep, it would have been when I was like a junior in high school.
right on. And then after that, you said you came back. Started looking for horses, trying to figure out, okay, what can I do to stay riding a horse? And was that kind of the start of ranching in general, or what were the steps between you being able to do more of that full time?
Yeah, no, like I came back and because my mom and dad didn't have any property to where we could they didn't have a property necessarily to where we could own a horse or I could own a horse, but I had an uncle that had a few just old kind of nags hanging around. So like I thought I was being pretty cowboy, but I would just go over there and catch a horse and go ride it up and down the dirt road once or twice, 3 times a week, something like that. And
Nice.
just because I had an interest in it and I really liked it. So like I would just go do that and go ride up and down the dirt roads, cross the creeks and all sorts of stuff. And then eventually I was able to talk that uncle out of one of those horses by the time that I graduated high school. So like over the course of that year or so, it was just when I had the free time, when I had the ability to, I'd go ride those horses, and he was gracious enough, whether he was home or not. Like he just told me the saddles and the pads and the bridles are here. Here's the horses. Here's a bucket and the grain. You can catch them and do what you want with them. Like looking back, it was kind of scary because I had zero knowledge of them, and he trusted me to just like go catch these horses. And like one of them was not a bronc, but he wasn't super gentle. So it's like, well, if you die, you die, but this is how you learn.
That's right.
So
That's right. kick on some Dave Stamey music on the Walkman and just start pedaling down the road, right?
Yeah. Now, at that point in time, I only knew of R.W. Hampton. I don't know if you
There you go.
know some of his music, but yeah, I was a 17 or an 18-year-old senior in high school that was blaring that in my Jeep, and the girls were not impressed.
I can imagine.
That's funny.
Who's this guy? And first, I guess the next question would be who's R.W. Hampton, and then
Yeah,
who's this guy playing?
yeah, yep,
So and you
exactly.
started to mention this in that little bit of a technical glitch we had there, but you said you mentioned Tanya in high school or right after high school?
Nope. So I met Tanya when I was in college. So she grew up a couple hours from where I did, and we both ended up at the same junior college. So,
Nice.
yep.
So,
So
so college, was that like a continuation of like ag science and trying to find ways to do ranch stuff, or was that more?
yeah, because I was going to college after high school anyways, and like I had signed a letter of intent to play baseball at a Christian college. Which looking back now, based upon some of my life choices and stuff, I wish that I would have gone there for some of the seminary purposes. But I'm glad that I went where I went because it also landed me with a wife and a family and stuff. So like it's hard to complain about that in the end, I guess. But
Yeah, I mean, especially within hearing distance of your wife. That's
exactly.
all,
Yeah, yep. She's downstairs right now, so
there you go. It's all safe.
yep, it's all safe.
So,
But
so community college, you're going to play baseball potentially, or
I was supposed to play baseball at the Christian college, and I ended up backing out of that letter of intent, and ended up going to the community college because it was more agriculture based. So I went in and I just jumped into the
okay,
program there, and yeah, did some cattle showing and helped on the school farm some, and just kind of got immersed in the agriculture stuff whenever I got started into college that way, and ended up with a job with a local doctor had a little red Angus farm, and he was gracious enough to teach me what he knew, and then also like be gracious enough to let me kind of fail and make mistakes and just learn as I was trying to figure out how to work in his system and then also manage some of it and do some stuff. Like by the end of that 2 years, um, I was I was a pretty proud college kid that liked to call myself his ranch manager, but I don't know that he
nice.
would have called me his ranch manager. Um, but anyways, it was a cool deal. Like I was able to kind of control my schedule and start managing my time and figuring out ways to make his cow herd pretty successful just through trial and error and stuff that he allowed me to do and he made decisions with, but then he let me kind of follow through with the being the hands and the feet of it. And like that was just a really neat deal. And like I owe a lot to him just because he was gracious enough to know like there was a lot of money at stake with a cow herd, and the even back then cattle prices weren't as high as they are now, but like those are live animals and that's real estate and it's fencing and it's everything. And he was like, well, here it is, see what you can do. So
Nice.
it
Yeah, that is a
was,
lot of responsibility. That's, I mean, and a lot of trust. Either he was trusting or stupid, I guess, one of those
yeah,
two.
that or he was a lot sneakier than I gave him credit for, and he made sure he went behind me everywhere that I was.
That's right. Yeah,
So
the silent micromanager.
yes, I don't think that he was that. Like he's a pretty good guy. I owe a lot to
That's
him.
cool.
I don't know that I've actually expressed the gratitude that I probably should to him.
Yeah, I mean, just that opportunity, especially as a young kid with
Yep.
some experience, but I mean, not a whole lot. That is pretty unique.
Yeah, for sure.
So from that role, I guess, did that make you want more of the ranch management and cow management side, or what was kind of your key takeaways for what you liked as part
What
of the ranching?
kind of I think it was out of necessity. Like it was like the I knew that like ranch hands didn't make much money, and that's honestly all that I was for the longest time. So like we got married, she was still I think Tanya was still like in her freshman year of college, and she made the great life decision to quit college and marry me, and then we moved off. So
Nice.
um and I had just finished a 2 year degree basically, so like we were both highly educated and thought we were going to conquer the world by going and being a farmhand on a a ranch in north central Kansas for like $1,300 a month and a house, and we were swiftly humbled. Um, so that one didn't last very long, but like it just kind of kept going from there. I knew out of necessity with having a wife and trying to start a family and stuff, like I had to have housing and I had to have a full-time job to pay some bills. So like we didn't have a lot of bills. I didn't have a nice fancy truck or trailer, or didn't have a mortgage on a house or anything like that, but like to cover a small truck payment and insurance and a phone bill and groceries every month, we knew we had to have a job somewhere, and we had to. I wanted it to be agriculture based with cows. Like I wasn't as into the farming and the tractors and row crops and stuff. So it was always I really wanted it to be about horses, but I knew in order for it to be about horses, um, my avenue was through like the ranching with cattle and using the cows for the job, of like letting the horses have the cows for their job basically. So that was kind of the direction that it took, and like it just slowly morphed into like go from one ranch job to the next, just being a ranch hand that doesn't pay very much. Like a lot of them, and it's no disrespect to ranches or anything like that. It's just the way that economics work. Like you can't pay ranch hands a lot whenever you're giving them a house and covering the insurance on the equipment that they get to tear up and things like that. So um, it just doesn't pay a lot. So in order for it to start paying better, I knew that it eventually had to move into like managing a ranch somewhere or something. And that was when we kind of got that opportunity in 2014 and 15. So from 2010 or 11, I think, was when we got married, all the way through 2015, I believe. It was working from, I think I had 3 or 4 different ranch jobs that it was working for pretty low pay, but a house provided. And then we kind of got our break at Santa Fe in 2014. We went to work there, and then in 2015, they changed management and went without a manager for a while, and I just worked for the owner. And then in 2015, they kind of trusted me to start taking over and managing the ranch there. So
So you mentioned a couple roles before you kind of got to the, I don't know if it'd be considered a full-time ranch manager or what the Santa Fe position would be, but
yeah.
what was that like, kind of working through those ranch hand roles, knowing you're not getting paid much? Were you at that time? Did you feel like I'm in it for the education, and there's the payoff long term, or were you kind of just committed and just trying to figure it out?
No, I was actually. It wasn't until the last ranch hand position right before Santa Fe that I got super. Like I always never unpacked the boxes we moved in, and I feel like, um, I was I was ready to leave at the drop of a hat because I was a pretty resentful, entitled turd when I was in my like early 20s. I definitely thought that I knew more than the guys that had made all the money to own the ranch. For some reason, I was just that way. Um, but like, luckily, we went to a ranch in 2013, I believe, and I started in October, during their bull sale. It was like the week of their bull sale in October was why I remember it. And then I think that um, that would have been like October, and I think that in um, November or December, Tanya got pregnant with Barrett, um, at that time. And because of that, I thought we needed to keep the insurance and all the different stuff. So, like, that was when I kind of made the commitment of, like, now I'm going to buckle down, even if it's pretty miserable, even if it's going to kind of suck, even if I don't like the people here, even if they kind of treat me like dirt. I'm not paid well enough, like just barely enough to not starve to death. Um, we're just going to stay because we need the insurance. So I'm at least going to stay until Barrett's born, and then kind of get our feet under us. And then like, I was like, oh, we're going to have to stay steady now. And that was when that thought process sort of shifted for me, as far as like, if I don't like the way the barn door swings, I'm leaving, to where like, oh, there's a kid on the way. Now I got to kind of really get serious about figuring out how to stay committed to something. Um, so like, that was kind of where it shifted for me, and I was like, well, even if it sucks, we're here for the suck.
Good, bad, and bad suck.
Yes, yep. So, and don't get me wrong, like that place was not fun. It was a registered Angus deal here in Missouri, and I worked with a guy that wanted to fight me or cuss me out every single day,
Oof,
like, and
It's
I
tough.
don't know. I don't know if it was my pride or what, but I was like, man, even if this deal is like this, I'm going to prove to everybody I can just stick it out instead of being here 6 months or 8 months and then leaving. And it worked out. Like I Barrett was born in August, so I stayed from that October through into the next August. She was born, and then we had some complications, so we had to spend some time at like a university hospital there. And that company was good enough to like let me be gone when I needed to, um, and then come back. And then we stayed through their bull sale in October, basically. So I was there from like October to October. Um, I was like, I proved to myself I can do this for a full year. And she was born. Um, it was still a couple hours from home, um, to either one of our sets of parents at that time. Um, so I found there was another opportunity, and that's when Santa Fe kind of popped up. I'd always search through Ranch Worlds every night just
hmm
for the fun of it. And I saw the job listing there at Santa Fe, and that was only going to be about 45 minutes from where my parents were and about an hour and a half from Tanya's. So because we had that opportunity, I was like, well, we can do this and see what it is. And it was supposed to be just a straight like stalker calf or a yearling operation at that point in time. So I was like, I can get out of the cows and not have to worry about pulling calves and keeping baby calves alive when there's snow on the ground. We can just rope and doctor yearlings and feed them out of a truck or out of a mixer wagon or whatever. And like, this will be fun for a while. Um, and that did last for a little while there at Santa Fe. But yeah, it was one of those deals where we um, worked through a few of those ranch hand positions where it was gaining a lot of knowledge despite the attitude that I had towards everyone and through everything, I guess. I was able to learn a lot without realizing how much that I was learning in the time because I already thought that I knew it. So,
Nice.
yeah,
It wasn't just us, honey. That we're we thought we knew everything at 17. Huh?
exactly. And mine,
Universal epidemic.
mine unfortunately didn't stop at 17. I feel like it lasted until I was at least 28 or 9 for some reason.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think I still struggle with that sometimes. The
I,
moralitis.
yes.
So you mentioned some of that like mindset shift in sounds like through some challenging jobs where you probably it may have kept you alive,
Yeah.
being spiteful. But so like was there anything that kind of changed that? Was it maybe some of those folks who helped out and tried to mentor you some or?
I was trying to think like at that time we were away from home and stuff, and I don't know if
Mhm.
it was if I don't know if podcasts were even a thing at that point in time in like 2013 or whatever, but um I don't know if it was something that I had maybe heard on the radio or watched on TV or maybe it to be on I can't pinpoint if it was somebody, my dad or Tanya's dad, or if it was another family member or somebody that just kind of pointed out, and probably offended me in the process if they did point it out of like, well, right now you haven't proven to anybody that you're not just a quitter, that when things get tough you just move on and go do something else. So first, I think like you said, like it was just probably an unhealthy pride within me that was just like, well, I guess now we're going to prove everybody wrong and I'm just going to stay. And through that, even though it was with a pretty terrible attitude, that's where we know like God's pretty faithful to us. Because even with a bad attitude, then he was able to show me some things through it and provide for us through it, and then also provide a way out of it whenever it was time to be out of it. So,
Yeah. Yeah, that's wild how that works out sometimes. And so you mentioned faith there. When did that come into play, or was it maybe something that you started out with at a young age?
yeah, I grew up in church. My mom
hmm
was always a song leader. Like she was always the praise and worship leader in the church that we grew up in. And then I my dad was always a Sunday school teacher. I think that he was a deacon of the church that we were in whenever I was a kid growing up. Um, but kind of customary, or I don't want to say customary because I'm raising a kid in the church too right now, that like I was one of those kids that I always knew better, but then when I finally got some freedom under my feet and a thumb off of me, that I kind of went backwards for a little bit. It felt like there once I graduated high school through probably my mid 20s, I would imagine. So it was kind of that time whenever I was at, like when I was there at um that ranch in central Missouri and then moving towards Santa Fe, that then kind of took the faith a lot more serious about it. Um and was like, well, we're having a baby now, like I guess we do need to start trying to go to church. We need to start doing like taking it a lot more serious, I guess, if that makes any sense. So, um, yeah, kind of letting it be for real instead of just playing the game, so to speak, I guess, and letting myself be fooled, but not really anybody else around me, probably at that time. But the faith was like the foundation was laid when I was a kid, and then yeah, it really came into play and started a lot more whenever I was probably in my
Yeah.
mid 20s or so. I would say 24 or 5 was whenever we got kind of pretty back serious and into got into a church and got things a lot more serious with Tanya and I both, and like both of us seeking our faith and our relationship with Christ and each other a lot more in that aspect.
Now, did you feel like that had any correlation with like the maturity or attitude change, or none at all? Trick
Um
question.
I do
Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, right?
I do think that whenever that took place, there was some more attitude change, but kind
Mm-hmm.
of like I said, like it was before that whenever I was like, man, everybody thinks that I'm just a quitter and that I haven't ever buckled down, I haven't ever done anything for real, and that was whenever like it was kind of before that the change in
Gotcha.
seriousness and what we took in our faith. Um, it was before that faith change that like kind of that toxic pride was what kind of took over for like, now I'm going to buckle down and do this for my earthly life just so that I can prove some people wrong.
Nice.
So,
So you're at Santa Fe, and that you mentioned already that they, at that point, or at least initially, they were a stocker calf and yearling operation. And I know some of that changed later, but is that
yes.
was that something that you kind of had a hand in switching how they did business, or how did
Um,
that come about?
I don't know that I had so much a hand in it. I think that it probably did play a bit of a role. So when I started there, it was a stalker calf operation, and they were buying steers from the sale barn. We were going through them and getting them lined out, putting them on feed, keeping them like 100 to 150 days, and then selling them um, by the contract, basically, um, with those cattle after 150 days when they got to a certain weight, basically. And then I was there through that. It was the winter of 2014, because we moved there right at, it was that October right after Tanya or Barrett had been born. So through that winter, and then we shipped those cattle in like April or May. Um, and when we shipped those cattle, um, the market had kind of taken a swing up and cattle prices were going up. And as they did that, um, the ranch had a little bit of issues kind of with their trust and stuff like that. The owner had passed away a year or two before. And they started going through, like, there was some probate stuff and some things like that that they were going through at that time, I think. So because of their circumstances with that and their finances, um, they didn't buy back steers immediately. We kind of just ran some of the sort offs and did some stuff for a month or two or so there in the summertime. And going into that next fall of 2015, I believe it would have been, the market had gotten so high that the owners were kind of trying to, they had always had somebody manage stuff for them, so that the ownership was kind of trying to learn, because it was coming in from a different background as well, to where they didn't end up buying steers, and they toyed around with buying a couple different exotic breeds of cows and some different stuff like that, and they ended up settling with just trying to purchase like some good, really, really fancy heifers. And because the background that I had, and I was there working for them, was sort of in the cow calf deal, um, I knew how to artificially inseminate those cattle. So they were just planning on buying some heifers. We were going to AI those heifers and then turn them out with a bull and get them bred, and then just try to sell them as bred heifers instead of doing the feeder calf deal. But as soon as we got that first set of feeder calves, or that first set of heifers bred, that was when the market kind of fell out from underneath of us, at the end of 2015. So they had more in them as open heifers than what they were worth as bred heifers afterwards. So when that happened, they just decided that, well, our exit strategy is going to be to calve them out and sell the calves, and then eventually try to recoup our cost in the calf crop from each of those and turn them into a cow herd. Um, so that was kind of what turned it into a cow calf operation, honestly, from there. So it kind of played right into my strengths, because that was what I had done quite a bit, was the cow calf side of stuff. And I had done some of the yearling things, but I had done a lot more of the cow calf stuff. And because I was there for them to be able to have at their disposal, they played into that stuff and ended up doing that way instead of the stalker calf deal.
Right on. So, right place at the right time, plus some of the stuff you learned on those prior jobs.
Yes.
Right in then.
Yep, exactly. And that's where like I said, the education side of it, even though I didn't realize it, that came from a lot of those ranch hand position jobs, because like learning how to AI, learning how to calve out cows and pull calves and keep babies alive and milk out a cow that might have mastitis or a swollen teat or something like that. Like those were all things that I took for granted pretty well, but then like you said, like they came in pretty handy once I had to start figuring out how to do it on a larger scale by myself without help.
Yeah. So just from a general perspective, what would, if you were describing it to somebody who had no idea what a stocker calf or yearling operation versus a cow calf, maybe walk us through the primary differences there, how you're keeping them, and how long you hold them, etc.
Yep. So as far as that goes, like there's a couple different stages of a cow's life, basically. So there's the calf side of it, and that's where that we refer to the cow calf side, and that's where you have mother cows or brood cows and bulls. You breed them, and that cow will have a calf once a year, and she can be seasonal. Some parts of the country will calve in the spring. Some parts prefer to calve in the fall. But basically, that's like your brood stock, is where your cow calf operation would be when you own the mother cows, and you're going from conception to birth and from birth, then you're going to wean those calves off of the cow at 6 to 8 months of age or so. And then once that calf becomes its own entity, basically, so it's its own living organism on its own, it's not considered part of the cow calf deal once it's weaned. That weaned calf is what you would call a stalker calf or a feeder calf or a backgrounding calf. And those there are operations that specialize in taking those weaned steers or heifers, and at that point in time, whenever that calf is trying to learn how to survive this world on its own without its mother right there to be able to give it its nutrition or provide it some of its health through the antibodies that she gives it in the milk and some things like that, those weaned calves or stalkers or feeder calves or yearlings, they'll become pretty high risk, which would mean that they're at high risk of getting sickness, a lot of times, which is just pneumonia, Sometimes it could be a coccidia or something within the guts, but a lot of times it has to do with respiratory sickness. And when that those operations that are just feeder calf operations or yearling operations will take those weanlings. So some guys can buy them directly from farms off of the cow, and then there's a lot of guys that make their living by making those wean calves that when that cow calf deal, he sells his calf crop, and how he gets paid every year is he weans and he sells at the sale barn. So those feeder calf guys will go to the sale barn and they'll buy those weaned calves that sometimes they've been weaned and sometimes they're pretty fresh off of the cow, like they're 30 or 45 minutes or an hour weaned off of their mother from that morning, basically. So then that guy's profit that he can make in the feeder calf side is that he takes those high risk calves that are just freshly weaned off their mothers, and he'll grow them from about a 400-pound or a 500-pound calf up to 700 to 900 pounds, and then that's whenever they would go to a feedlot. So that stalker calf operation usually lives within that period of time from weaning when they weigh 400 to 500 pounds up until they would then be called a finishing or a feeder calf or a slaughter calf, when they would be at like 800 to 900 pounds or so. Um, and they gain their value in because of the size and then also because of the quality. If they don't look very good, or they've got some small things that just good nutrition and health will help them with, then they can take them from that as a small calf to a larger calf, and they're gaining weight and they're gaining value in that, and that's what that stalker calf side of it is. And then the finishing side of it would be the feedlots out in Kansas or Texas or Nebraska, going into the rail yards and to whenever those cattle would get slaughtered.
Nice. So you had some experience earlier on at I guess both, and then when you started at Santa Fe, they were in that stalker
Mm-hmm.
operation, and they started migrating into the cow calf, which I don't know what you would think is more risky. Obviously, you already mentioned some of the downsides of the calves. They're just weaned, they're high health risk. But then if you're the cow calf guy, you're waiting a long time for money, maybe. So
Yeah. Yep.
some risks on both ends.
Yeah, there's definitely some risk. I think that in the long run, if a guy, a lot of times the theories that I've always heard or that have always been told to me, anyways, are that like the cow calf is going to be less upside, but a lot less risk. So it's a lot more steady. So it's usually always going to be a steady incline, but it's just not going to be very steep ever. And it's very rarely a super sharp uh, down side of it. But with the stalker calf deal, it plays on the market every 150 days basically. So it could be a lot of rollover income, or a lot of cash flow that rolls over every 150 days. But that's where you can make a huge upturn in 150 days, or you can make a huge downturn. And there's ways to protect yourself on both of those. But there's a lot more risk as far as for the survivability or like your death loss in the stalker calf, and there's a lot more risk for the markets to change and cause loss or gain, um, in the stalker calf side versus the cow calf side for sure.
Nice. So ups and downs are both. I guess on the cow calf side, you have a little bit more control over your inputs, maybe.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep. You can control your inputs, and then also like your as far as for your large like your large debt, it should possibly only come that one time when you purchase cows, or as you raise those heifers and you give up the opportunity cost of selling them. So you should only have the one large expenditure, and then be able to make it up over the potential of 8 to 12 calf crops of that cow. Versus a stalker calf, you have 150 days to make up or lose, either direction.
yeah, makes sense. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good segue back into kind of where you are at Santa Fe Ranch. So you talked about the fact that they're transitioning from yearling yearling stocker over to cow calf, and you just mentioned there's a huge upfront cost to that
Mm.
type of transition. So what was that like for you, and what were some of the challenges in making that switch?
Yeah, so it was I would like to say it was not that huge, but it really was. Honestly, it was kind of crazy because it was a large ranch that, like I said, the owner had passed away, so his widow had taken it over. Um, and with the widow taking it over, he had a couple of kids before he was married to her, and then she's got a couple of kids that were before she was married to him. Um, and none of his kids really wanted anything to do with it other than to just liquidate all those assets in order to cash it out. But then the widow didn't necessarily want to liquidate it, and the widow had a daughter and a son-in-law that they were very interested in the ranch and wanted to keep it going for that owner's sake. Um, and like I said, they were super gracious and being really patient with me and trusting me after kind of some bad scenarios that they had go on beforehand. Um, so like the struggle with it was that like the trust company that it was in, um, so through the probate of the death and trying to split it up, what they could liquidate to the different family members at that point in time, um, it kind of drained a lot of the financial um, piggy banks that guy had at the time for the ranch. Um, so then it went from being kind of paid off, free and clear, and having stalker calves and everything, and then they had to buy back the cattle that they did have that we turned into the cow herd on a line of credit that was lent against some of the land that's already been paid off there for years on end. Um, and the feed, all of the operating costs ended up having to be lines of credit whenever it was. Oh, when
Wow.
it had always been just basically cash flow that the guy had. Um, like the ranch was essentially his little fishbowl to be able to play with, and it went from being kind of a tax write-off expenditure for some of his other businesses to then it had to figure out how to make money, but also while it had to figure out how to make money, it had to lean on some of the stuff that was already paid off or get loans for different things that it really shouldn't have had to, but because of the way that the trust and the probate and stuff played out, it did make it quite a task to go from free and clear to having like $1.5 million in debt for about 1,200 cows and figuring out how to pay those off over the course of 5 or 6 years. And because they started as heifers, we had to go through the conception process all the way through the calving, and then after the calving was getting another 6 months in order to wean them and then try to sell the calf crop. So I think that from the point in time of buying those heifers, that we bought the first part of those heifers in the fall of 2015, um, and bred them there at Thanksgiving, just 1st of December of 2015, and we got to sell the first calves, um, like maybe February. I was trying to think. It might have been like February of 2016 or something like that. It was, or not 16, but 17. It was a almost a 2 year process. So they had to go a year and a half or 2 years with zero income and a lot of expenditures.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's tough. I mean, you went from cash flow positive, everything paid off, and you flip that around to got a bunch of payments, no income. You know is going to be rolling in for several years.
yeah, absolutely.
That's a little bit of stress.
Yes, for sure. So it had some trying times, and like it went through some trial and error of different things of figuring out what kind of feed programs that we wanted to kind of run and which ones were going to be cost effective versus being able to actually be effective for health and for maintaining cows and for maintaining and growing calves and the whole 9 yards. So yeah, Like it's super awesome. We actually branded calves there Tuesday, so to kind of see the operation today, which it's 2025, so that would have been all 10 years later, basically 11 years later, to see it in the state that it's in now versus some of the things that we did go through early on, especially. It's really encouraging to know that it can happen and you can do it, but it's usually never without struggle. So
Yeah.
it's super awesome to be there again and be able to see it and see the success that they're being able to have now.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, that's talk about investing in the future. And then you mentioned they're all heifers, so you got the whole, you have first bunch of first time heifers calving for the first time. So you're
Yeah,
going to do all the hard stuff all at once.
yeah, it was quite a deal that first fall. That first the first full year that we were there, it was only Tanya and I, and then the owner's son-in-law Mike was there to help us quite a bit, but yeah, just us. And like I said, I didn't end up hiring any help for myself or anything on the cow stuff till after I had calved out that first set of heifers. So I think I calved out, it was like 550 first calf heifers that fall. We calved out by ourselves, so that was quite an ordeal, figuring that out, learning that deal, and probably it was some of my stubborn hard headedness and pride that kept me from trying to hire help or thinking that I could do it on my own and this and that. And luckily, like I said, the Lord is faithful to us, so He kept me from getting in too large of a wreck.
Yeah, I mean, stubbornness is good in some cases, right?
Oh yeah, don't tell Tanya that whenever I'm not around, please.
Will do. But, so that it's Santa Fe. There, are you still doing horses, outside horses or anything, or is it just primarily focused on ranch management and making
Yeah,
some money?
so for the longest time it was just focusing on managing the ranch, taking care of it, getting it going, making sure that things were rolling smoothly. And then yeah, probably in the last year or two that I was there, I started taking on several more outside horses. At that point in time, I really didn't have time to start colts. I started I started a couple of colts that I had raised on the ranch myself. So I had bought a couple mares as we were there, and we had a little bit of extra income. And part of our compensation was the ranch is that they would feed some horses for us and stuff. So I had a couple of mares that I had bought and was able to turn out on grass. And so though they raised a few colts for me, and I just took the time to kind of start them. But as far as for outside horses, it always had to be somebody sending something to me that was already started with 30 to 90 days or something, or an older horse that might have a problem with running off or just not needing a tune up, something like that. And then I could just put it to work doing ranch work. And usually iron out a lot of the issues that a horse might have, or um, just through basic everyday ranch work that I was doing on it.
Nice. Do you feel like has it always been about like cows and managing cattle and that focus, or had the horses kind of become part of that as well, or which one do you like more?
I know that for sure, as far as like for managing like the breeding or reproduction side of it, cows are far less
Hmm.
stressful to me. Just
Yeah.
simply because they're typically a lot less sentimental. Um, that's what a lot of ours has been in the horse side of it has been through opportunity. I guess we're opportunistic breeders. As far as like if we've got a pretty good mare that she either cripples herself or something happens where we can't ride her, then we try to breed her. We've never necessarily set out specifically to buy really fancy bred mares or fillies or anything like that in order to have our own horse breeding program. Um, so as far as reproductively or for production purposes, um, we've always super enjoyed the uh, the horse side of it, but it's never been in the reproduction. If it was producing anything, it was just trying to produce good, solid, broke ranch horses. that we would have either bought or traded on or something when they were young or not worth much, and then turned them into useful citizens through honest, hard days' work on a ranch, and then been able to sell them as a broke horse later on in their life. Um, where with the managing on the ranch at Santa Fe, it was it was based solely on the reproduction and production of calves every single year. So um, I've always enjoyed babies in general. So like whether it's a calf or whether it's a foal or whether it's a litter of puppies, anything like that. Like we've always Tanya and I both really enjoy that aspect of it. Um, but as far as kind of what we have spent a lot of our life trying to figure out and to do, um, just because of the economics of it, it's always been in the cattle production side of things.
Nice. Yeah, I mean riding horses is it's nice to have a good tool, and it seems like you're generally riding something decent that you've
Yeah,
created. So I was just curious if you find that to be a more engaging aspect of the two.
yeah. And as far as it goes now, like for the like to me, as because of probably experience or because of the knowledge that I've gained,
Hmm.
it's it's far simpler or far easier, in my opinion, to manage a cow herd well and to make them as economically productive as possible versus trying to take a problem horse or something like that and figure out what its problems are. But I probably enjoy the horse side of it more. It's just for the way that I have kind of developed myself and the skills that I've had. It seems like the cow side of it has always been a lot easier. And like I'm the type of person that like if I don't have a purpose or a job for something, then I don't see a reason in doing it, I guess. So like I would never have been able to survive going and working for a reining trainer or a pleasure horse trainer or something to where it's loping a lot of circles in an arena over and over and over, doing the same thing monotonously over and over and over, um, without having a job for those horses. Um, and that's just my personality. So like I like being able to go trot them across the pasture or like don't get me wrong, I really like to um lope circles in the arena or to work a cow down the fence and to do some stuff like that. Um but I really enjoy being able to go trot out across the sagebrush or rope and doctor sick cattle or sort on stuff and um be able to sort lightweights from big weights or be able to sort based on color or anything like that. Like I'm really big on there's got to be a reason for why.
Yeah, I hear you on that. I honestly I still can't really understand the whole reining circles, and like I get bored so fast, and it just then bored turns into frustration when you're trying to get the horse to do kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yep. So no, and that's where a lot of my training program on horses is I try to tie like different maneuvers or different things that I'm asking them to do with a specific task or job so that they can try to understand like this is why we're doing it this way and it makes them
Yeah,
a little more compliable for why I'm asking them to do something a certain way.
right on. So you're at coming back into the story portion of that after a brief detour into the horsemanship.
Yeah.
You're at Santa Fe. You've done all the hard stuff. You've overcome all these financial, labor shortage, first time heifer calving challenges. I mean, you wouldn't ever leave there for a long time, right? I mean, might as well hang out there for the rest of your life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Um I guess yeah, kind of the reason for leaving was we had started a ministry with some friends and the traveling with that ministry um it was playing a toll on me as far as just feeling like I was leaving the other guys there at the ranch hanging or that I wasn't doing a good enough job taking care of things for the owners. Um so that was kind of the main driving force behind leaving there. It was just in order to be able to um in the end, really to find some peace within myself Um, just because I had some internal turmoil of like feeling like I was not living up to the deal that I had made with them in the very beginning of taking care of their place as well as what I absolutely could, just simply because we were traveling too much, with a ministry that then also, like, it'd be like making a commitment after a commitment, because like God placed that ministry in our life. So I had that commitment to him, and then I had to figure out which one was priority, the kind of the earthly monetary commitment of taking care of a ranch that is all gonna wash away eventually, or doing the ministry that he kind of put in our life at that point in time. So that was the main driving force behind leaving. Like, they're a super good family, and it's a really good ranch to work for, and it was the best job that I ever had, to be honest with you. But I really couldn't sleep well at night knowing that I felt like I wasn't living up to my end of the deal for them.
Yeah, that's tough. And I think, I mean, you mentioned it's not like you had all good jobs and you were leaving the best one. You had a bunch of bad jobs, so you knew just how bad those were.
Exactly.
And then you get one that you're like, man, this is maybe I've made it. And then from there, you're like, well, maybe I'm being called in a different direction. So, how tough was that? Like personally, did it take you a little while to come to that conclusion? Like, oh, I gotta make a change.
It did, to be honest with you. It's funny. We actually haven't even talked about this with anybody else, really. But like, probably Tanya and I struggled with that decision, um, probably for close to a year, maybe two, even, honestly, of knowing like that that was, we didn't want to let them down, and we didn't want to let ourselves down. And it was the best job that we had ever had. It gave us a lot of freedom, but then it was just not feeling good about having to live with ourselves in the way that I didn't feel like I was taking care of what they had put me in charge of taking care of for them. So yeah, it was quite a deal, but like, I don't know, probably one of the things that I measure, a lot of the decisions that I make with, or that I measure, like, the way that I feel about it, is the peace that I get within something. So like, if it whether it's a temporary decision or whether it's a long-term decision, if I can't be at peace with the way that the outcome is, or that the decision that I made will be, then I try, like, that weighs on me more than anything. So like, with that, knowing that even though we were like giving up the good, I felt like at that time it was in order to reach the great. Um, and that was kind of how I measured that decision. Um, and also knowing that like the ranch job is earthly and temporary, where like God was calling me to do something that those trips and the different things are temporary, but like the long-term outcome of that ministry, and the relationship that the commitment I was making towards Christ with all that, like, that was the long-term deal for me.
Right on. I like how you talked about peace there because I mean, personally, my definition of peace has kind of evolved over the years to where I used to think peace was like no struggle, no conflict, like nothing bothered me at all, not even my kids or maybe my wife, right?
Yeah.
But now I think more, it's not so much like an absence of struggle, but instead it's more so a struggle with a purpose. And I think
Yes.
that kind of I hear that in your story there, where I mean, it wasn't an easy decision to say this is the best job I've ever had. Like we're
Mm-hmm.
finally stable, and like we're in a good spot. And then hey, how about we just because we see a higher purpose or something bigger, let's leave that and go do
Yeah.
something that you said gives you peace, but at the same time, it's not without struggle.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And again, I think I can't imagine that not being tough. I mean, when you've been through tough jobs and working situations, I mean, in your
Mm-hmm.
mind, you're thinking, man, I finally made it to the other side, and then to be like, you know what, I'm just going to throw that away and
Yeah.
way
Yep.
out into the wild.
Yep. And it was a job where we were compensated well, and we were given a
Nice.
house and a half a beef every year, and they would let us take whatever kind of vacation that we wanted to, and cover fuel for us on a lot of different things and aspects of how we lived and different stuff. Like, it was you looking back at it, it makes me feel like I was crazy now. But yeah, no, it was it was it was difficult in the aspect of leaving that and
Mhm.
then trying to become self-employed and starting a business training colts and trying to shoe horses for the public, and especially because that was, shoot, that would have been when I would have been in my early 30s. I would have been 32 or 33 trying to learn how to shoe horses and become a farrier, when realistically that's a young man's game, not a early to mid 30s guy's game. So like, yeah, trying to do something that's going to break your back and you've only got so many horses and so much time to do it, and I started pretty late at it.
Oh yeah. Oh, the joy. So what did that look like? 'Cause I think this is really, and we talked a little about the success part early on, meaning something different than just a bunch of money or
Mm-hmm.
whatever it might mean to some other people. But this is I think you're kind of outlining the process for you saw a purpose. You saw, hey, here's where I can make a difference in something bigger than myself, and now how do I get there? And so did you all like sit down and say, okay, what can we do financially, farrier work or whatever, to kind of make it through, or how'd that look?
Yeah, like I think that it was kind of out of necessity, or it probably wasn't so much out of necessity. It was out of me just being a cheapskate. I learned how to shoe my own horses on my own. So that last 6 months or a year that I was at the ranch, I had a few different people that were hauling horses to me so I could shoe them in the barn under lights after it got dark and stuff in the evenings. Um, and it was we made that decision to do that. Kind of once we felt like we were just established enough where we had a couple of people that would send 2 or 3 horses a month, maybe, um, to where we could survive that way. I had some really, really awesome friends also that would just help me put me to work day working here and there. So like it might not even be a couple days a week. It might have just been a few days a month. And then I knew that between the couple of horses that I could get, the little bit of day work, and then also just trying to stay busy with building a shoeing business, um, which in the end, like if a guy had the working desire and the knowledge, and like make a schedule book, offer it to the public, make a schedule book, show up when you're going to, and do a good job, or at least try to do the job well, then building a business is not terribly difficult. Um, it's maintaining it's maintaining the consistency through that sometimes can be difficult. Like maintaining the motivation can be the difficult part, but getting it started is not terribly difficult. So like, I don't know that I had a ton of shoeing customers, but the fact that I knew how to do it, I would answer phone calls when they called, and I would show up when I told them I was going to show up. In this part of the country, anyways, it made it pretty easy to find work.
Nice. So what did that look like? So you mentioned kind of getting started in the farrier piece. What did it look like putting out a shingle that said, "We'll train Arabians for using my"?
Luckily, I've never had at least to my knowledge, they could have been a grade horse that somebody didn't know about, but I've never had an Arabian. But I
Nice.
have had, I have had some gaited horses, and I've had one mule,
Oh,
and
nice.
those were some of the difficult months. So it was just a matter of like basic horsemanship, in my opinion, is basic horsemanship regardless of the breed, um, or the discipline that they're after or anything. Like I had a guy call me today about starting a colt, and he said that he might want to make it a barrel horse or he might want to make it a cutting horse. I was like, well, I think you could go either direction, because the first 90 to 150 days are going to look real similar no matter what it is. Because it's just getting like, be able to calmly, safely saddle and mount, turn left and right, stop, go, and back up. And from there, it's just starting to learn how to maneuver different body parts. Um, and over the course of 90 days or 120 days, like a lot of those all look the same. So like when I had those horses that I really didn't know what the purpose the person had for them was, like that's how my business has changed a lot now. Is like, all one of the first questions that I'll ask is what their goals are for the horse. So like if their goal is just to sit on them and ride them down the trail or down the dirt road, it's not that that's any less difficult. It just means that I might not have to focus on some things the way that I focus on one that a person wants them to be a high level sorter or a cutter or, um, and depending on how they're bred, I might not have to worry about that on somebody that says that they want their Tennessee Walker to be a cutting horse either. So like it just it takes some of the pressure off, and now that I'm further into it, I'm pretty upfront with people about kind of like this is what I know my capabilities of are, and a lot of the rest of it depends upon the personality and the abilities of your horse.
What's the best, maybe the best horse you've trained?
The best horse that I have trained,
Either when you
uh,
got it in, or like easiest to train, or maybe when it left.
yeah. So there's a couple of different ones. It's funny. I was telling somebody the other day. Um, she'd be 4 now, I believe. I think I had her last year as a 3-year old. It's some friends of ours that have been to a few clinics and stuff. You might have met them, I think. Um, but Micah had a little bay filly that she wasn't even sure how she was bred until after I got started with her, and then she sent me some papers. But she was like a granddaughter of Smart Little Lena or something. Um, but she was probably the nicest feeling colt that I've had at like 10 rides. Like super willing, really gentle, really feely. She would stop, she would turn around, and like she was almost broke at 10 rides, it felt like. And she let me have her for 90. So like the last 75 days were pretty easy, it felt like.
That's
Um,
nice.
yeah. So as far as that one went, um, there were some people that sent me this horse named Steel once. Um, he was pretty outstanding.
Yeah,
He was
those are all
outstanding
pretty
in the
nice.
pasture a few times.
Yeah,
No,
outstanding color choice. That's what
out.
he was.
No, he was actually pretty good. He was really cool. I wished I had him over the summer when I was roping big yearlings.
Yeah, he definitely had the size to drag stuff around. I don't know if
Yeah.
he had the heart for it quite, but
Yep. Yep. I was trying to think of a few others. There's another one that another colt that I had that he started out as a pretty nasty bronc to begin with, and then um he turned into a really really cool horse. By the end of 90 days, we could go doctor and rope yearlings. Um, I ended up actually putting a kid on him at a clinic in Kentucky, um, because the horse that I hauled for him to ride ended up crippled in the trailer.
hmm.
Um, and so that was a really really cool horse too. Like a lot of mine don't end up going and specializing in anything besides maybe being arena rope horses. Um, just because I don't get 6 to 9 months with them to try to specialize them as a cutter or anything like that. But um, just general good citizens that you know you can trust. Um, Probably my wife's horse is maybe the best one that I feel like I've ever trained, just because I've got to spend the very most time with her. Um, Her, and then I've got a mare for sale. Between those two, those might be some of the best ones. But personality wise, my wife's horse, she tries extremely hard all the time, and she's always super, super honest as far as how she feels about something and how she's going to act. And she really never acts bad at all, but she doesn't hide her emotions or how she feels about something necessarily. Some of those horses will comply to you simply because of being forced into it, but I really like whenever those horses will be super honest about how they feel about it, and they might be troubled a little bit, but they're still going to do it in a way that isn't perfect, but it's giving effort towards it, where you know that they're actually into it rather than just working like a robot.
You know, is that Bayronne
Yep,
horse?
yep. Macaroni is her name,
Nice.
and she would be the first colt that we ever raised. So she would have been one of those that I started at the ranch at Santa Fe. Bought her mother and bred her, and then raised her and started her as a 2-year old, and have ridden her. I think she's 8 or 9 this year, I believe.
Right
So
on. I've been kind of monopolizing time. I'm going to ask Matt to hop in and throw some questions at you.
Yeah, no, you're good.
Do you feel like for the ones that are the good ones, like there's a couple maybe handful of horses that were really good, was it hard not to want to buy the horse off of them, or do you not really get attached?
Yeah. So no, honestly, it's actually funny. Tanya gives me a hard time because I might not like one for that first 30 days, and sometimes I really like them in their first 30 days when I've got 10 or 15 rides with them. And then it's that middle 30 days that I'm like, I don't like this thing. I'll be so ready to leave it, like send it back home. And then by the time that I get to like the last 10 or 15 rides that they have in their in towards 90 days or something, I'm like, man, I really like this horse. I'd really like to buy this thing. Um,
Nice.
and
Nice.
she likes to say I say that about every single one of them, and she's probably right. But I do like I probably take it probably too personal. I feel like if one is not successful or one doesn't turn out the way that I want it to. Some of them I've been able to just kind of shut my brain off and be like, man, it's not any good. Like, and not saying that the horse is not any good. It's just it's not going to meet the goals. It's not going to meet the expectations of myself or the owner. Like, it is what it is, and you just got to let it go. Like, I've gotten better about that over the years of like setting too high of an expectation for myself or for that horse. But then at the same time, like I do get pretty invested into how well that they can do and how well that they're going to turn out and go. Um, like, yeah, there's several of them, honestly. Like, I hate to admit it, but there's a few of them that I feel like I've probably taken back on for a couple of months at a time. Um, and honestly, not even charge the owner just because I did like the horse and I felt like I got along with it really well. And then it didn't necessarily meet their expectations, and it's just I kind of took it too personal, so I went ahead and took them on for even longer than what I should have, and probably should have let them go be what they were going to be because the owner was probably content with them. I just felt like that they weren't or something. Um, but yeah, there's a ton of them. Like, yeah, I could probably name off over a dozen of them, including that steel horse that in the end, afterwards, I was like, man, if I had the money, I would just buy this thing so that I could ride it for a long time.
Sure.
So,
Sure.
It
Right
probably
on.
speaks to the product. Like you probably feel like you're making a difference in the horse. You can kind of understand how to get along with them.
yeah. And after doing it for so long, like you can start reading into or like being able to understand like their behaviors and almost even predict a little bit about how they're going to be, and then knowing how to aid them through that. Um, honestly, there've been times where like I've thought it, or Tanya's kind of told me, or even talking to other guys that will share information and stuff like that. It's like I feel like maybe one of the larger holes is that I end up figuring those horses out, or I figure out how to get along with a lot of horses that some other people just won't figure out how to get along with. So then it's almost kind of a flaw to where somebody might watch a video or watch how I ride them, or if I show them in a certain way that then they feel like they can't do it. So then the horse isn't as good. And I'm like, man, no, that horse is that good. You just got to be the kind of rider that will show that horse the way that it is. So, and that's not necessarily a dig on anybody. It's just after you spend consecutive days with them for 90 to 100 to 150 days or something like that, then you start that I've enjoyed being able to feel them and figure them out in that manner. So then I there have been times where I felt like I've gotten to a certain point. I need to kind of start riding them a little bit different way to know that they're going to tolerate somebody that might not be as in tune or as skilled or something like that.
You know, you kind of talked about like different stages, obviously, from the beginning where you start with them to the end. What would be your favorite part? Do you like more of the starting them out from the beginning to be able to teach them a lot of stuff fast, or do you like where they're getting towards the finishing part? Love the finishing part, and then you know maybe the roping part to where you're tying that into the whole scene of. I must have lost service, or I'm losing connection every once in a while there. Sorry, I don't know if you heard all my question or not. My apologies.
Yeah, I think so. You were just curious which stage of the process that I enjoyed the most in training a horse.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
Yeah. So I'm probably as guilty as anybody else. I like the instant gratification of big changes in them. So like first 5 rides, um, first 10 rides to go from zero to knowing how to um, turn and get off of your feet some and doing some stuff like that. But honestly, I do enjoy, like, sometimes the monotony of the grind gets to me at times, but I actually really enjoy, like, as long as one is giving effort, no matter where we're at in the process. I think that I enjoy kind of the whole process because, like, even from the starting, like, there's, like, you can start one and have 4, 5, 6 good rides, and then all of a sudden it feels like it's a grind from like ride 6 to 25. Um,
Yeah.
and it's just like, man, they're kind of resentful of what you're asking because they're not far enough along to put a job with it. Um, and or they figured out that, like, instead of just doing something, or you're expecting a little bit more because they gave you a little bit last time, so now you're expecting a little bit more from them this time. Um, but then, like, then there's the times where it's like they are a little farther along and you're in the grind, but then you feel where you get the breakthrough. Like if they get pretty rubbernecked or something, or they're, like, I had a colt that I ended up really liking. I didn't like him for a long time, but like the first 10 or 15 rides were super great. And then from like ride 10 or 15 all the way to like 45 or 50, he was just super rubbernecked. He'd run off, like, you could crank his face all the way around to your stirrup and he'd still run off the opposite direction, and you felt like he was going to fall down or he was going to run into something or do this or that. And then it was like all of a sudden, like, I don't even know that I noticed whenever the light bulb switched, but then it was like all of a sudden I was able to be roping on him. He was going everywhere that I wanted to. He was staying perfectly straight between my reins and my feet whenever I was asking him to go somewhere in a straight line. When I'd ask him to turn, he was getting directly off of that pressure immediately. Like, those type of deals are really cool. And then now I get to step into more of that role with the horse training that I do in Colorado in the summer times, of like, a lot of these horses are going where they're either really green and haven't even so much as traveled out across like the sagebrush or something like that. So like going and trotting these horses down a 2-track road or out across the sagebrush where they got to pick their path and figure out how to go over and around and on top of some of that sagebrush. And there'll be prairie dogs that jump out in front of them, or porcupines, or gopher holes, and all sorts of stuff. Like, getting to see them go through the process in their mind of figuring out how to problem solve that. Like, I really enjoy getting to see horses start to problem solve things on their own, where you don't have to micromanage them and you don't have to ask them for every, like, some guys really like to have a horse that is so, they feel like it's so broke that every single step that the horse takes, it's kind of looking for them to know which direction that the step needs to go. Where I'm not the totally the opposite, but I'm opposite enough to be like, this is the direction you're going, move your feet that direction until I tell you to go a different direction, kind of a deal. Where, like, I like seeing that problem solving, where if I can see, like, we're trotting down a road, but then there's a hole right in the middle of the road, or there's a sagebrush bush right in the middle of it, and I can see them start problem solving between their ears which direction to go around the hole or over the top of it or whatever. Like, that's part of the process that I really enjoy nowadays. Or like letting a horse learn how to track and rope a calf for the first time, and like, you'll kind of fight them until all of a sudden they lock on, and then you're not having to steer them. You could hang the reins over the saddle horn and be able to rope one without having to kick them left and right or pick their face up in your way or anything like that. Like, those are the things that I really enjoy nowadays. It feels like.
Sure. No, that's really good. Me and Luke, I had talked a couple different times on some of those as well. I think a lot of people are guilty of it, myself included, for that instant gratification. I'm no expert trainer or anything like that, but just from what time that I've spent with the ones that I've been working with, my own and what have you, it seems like when you get into those situations too, to where you kind of start getting discouraged and you feel like you're just beating it against the wall over and over and over again on these like plateaus, so to speak, to where it's like they're just not getting past this,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden there's a huge jump to the next point, and it's just like, okay, this is pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of that's what keeps the horse training going for me, is like the constant seeing some progress and seeing some improvement in different things, like seeing success. And that's part of why I enjoy the job with the cattle and stuff with it, is because it's an easy measuring block. Like, we're roping a lot of cattle right now, and like in the very beginning, like I roped there was a mare that I started this last month, so she's got 30 or 40 rides on her now. And I was able to heel some calves on her for the first time on, oh, I don't remember, maybe it was Monday or something like that. I think I took her. Um, and the very first one, like, she was scared of it. She turned around and ran off backwards. She was left and right and all over. And then by the fifth one, she was tracking in there like she had done it 100 times already. And she was taking the pull of being able to heel a steer and holding it down and everything. So, like, that's the really cool part, is getting to see the progress in it. And the reason that there was progress in it and that she stopped fighting it so much is just because there was a job and a purpose with it. So, like, I'm pretty big on that, even in my own life. I feel like, is like, God didn't put us here just to merely kind of survive or to exist. Like, he put us here for a purpose and to thrive. So, like, that's kind of where some of my measuring blocks for success start, is by knowing if I have purpose, if I have peace in that purpose, and if I don't feel like I'm just getting by, if we're kind of thriving in that situation.
Yeah, right on. So definitely like I mean, you enjoy, I guess, the part two for the where you can sit back and have the reflecting moment and also comparison. I guess what you're kind of saying from life to the horse training and how that
Mm-hmm.
kind of goes and plays hand in hand.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
You started into talking about the ministry.
Mm.
Um, which you kind of had to you kind of had to go through, and how that was a kind of a hard experience to give up, so so to speak, one of your favorite places to work, and tell us a little bit about the ministry that you're still currently a part of. I'm assuming that's the one you're talking about.
Yeah. Yep. So, Top Hand Clinics. We had the first clinic in 2018. So I guess that would be kind of our date of establishment. Anyways, Um, and I think it was in September. It was in the fall, I believe. But anyways, with that deal, it's a cowboy ministry where basically our goal is to spread the gospel, but we kind of trick people into coming to hear the gospel through trying to teach them a clinic that's based upon cowboy skills, whether it be um, roping and doctoring cattle, or sorting, or we've done some horsemanship, colt starting clinics, um, kind of anything cowboy we've tried to do as far as that goes with the with cowboy and ranch skills. Most of them are based around being able to brand calves, just because there's a large chain, like there's there's a decent job in it. We really enjoy branding calves, so like it makes it fun. Um, and there's a large amount of skills that can go into just the process of being able to gather a set of cows, sort the calves, brand the calves, and then get them back with their mothers. So we were able to tie a lot of that in, as far as being able to have that being a teachable clinic, um, where we can give them some real world um, kind of ranch skills, so that hopefully by the time that they leave, they've gained enough skills where they could even go try to day work for a day for somebody, that if they had a friend or if they had a neighbor that was needing some help, then they would be a useful member of their crew. Um, but that's strictly just an avenue to get people to show up so that we can preach the gospel to them a couple of different times through that weekend that we get to spend with them. Um, we'll do a couple of different devotion times. We'll split up with male and female different groups on one of the nights to be able to get a little more in depth with questions that maybe the opposite sex won't know from someone else. Um, but then, yeah, it's just to pour into and love on people. So it's a really neat deal. Top Hand Clinics has been a blessing to us. Like I said, we managed through the first couple of years of it while we were still employed there at the ranch. And then, I don't know, 2021 or so, we did something like 14 clinics or 15 clinics. And those clinics are through the weekend. So I had to either be gone or figure out a way to work through the week and then leave, and then have either Tanya or some of the guys at the ranch take care of stuff while I was gone. Which in different seasons is not difficult, and then in other seasons it's almost impossible, it feels like, to leave a ranch for a weekend at a time and then to do it for 14 different weekends through the year. That was part of the determining factor for us. But yeah, Top Hand has been super awesome. We've slowed down just a little bit the last year or two, but otherwise, yeah, still going strong, having a few clinics a year.
I remember the first time I met you, and obviously Kai was at the Top Hand Clinics. And I remember the first day or two. You gonna make it over there?
I think so.
Probably the most talking you've done in a while. We're like an hour in here. So the first time at the clinic, and I would just learning how to rope, still just learning how to rope. And then you were showing us the Johnny Blocker, and I being sarcastic through this wad of crap and was just messing with you. I was like, yeah, that's just what you were looking for, right? And you just looked at me, didn't say a word, and walked away. That was one of my favorite Koty moments.
Sometimes
you were not having it.
Sometimes I can't hide what I think as well as what I do.
Yeah, that was pretty good. You were like, I can't even honor that with a response. I don't even figure out if you're joking or not, but that was garbage.
No, Tanya gets on to me sometimes because I'm not able to hide what I'm thinking. I actually have to open my mouth for somebody to know my thoughts.
That's good stuff. I've seen a couple of those brutally honest moments where you don't say anything and you just show it with your face and a quick maybe response. It's hilarious.
I try to be super gentle with how I approach things, but sometimes I'm at a loss whenever it hits you right then in the moment.
So, and kind of to that for the top end, glad you kind of shared some of like how that is broken down and done. Luke had actually told me about it. The first one that he went to, I was supposed to come to it, and I had something else going on, and I didn't make it. And Luke kind of talked about it a little bit, and he was like, "Man, this was really good." He's like, you gotta see if you can't come to the next one, because we were kind of starting into trying to find the whole deal with the roping, and same for me. Still not really there as what I would ever consider great at doing that. Still trying to learn it, but then I ended up coming, and I think one of my takeaways from that, and anybody that gets the chance to go, definitely highly recommend. Top Hand was an awesome experience for my first time around. I think I went. My first time was in Tennessee. I just thought it was really neat. It's kind of advertised as a stewardship, stockmanship kind of thing. There's some roping involved with it, and we're going to teach you and tying in the faith piece, our faith, and talk to you about the gospel. We'd been to a bunch of different ones, and me and Luke always go back and talk on it. We're like, I think the way that Top Hand is kind of done theirs is just really cool, because you and Kai both work really well together, and it's just so fluent to where you've done it so many times outside of a clinic, and then you just put it to use. But I really appreciate how you would go about the whole process. For you'd meet people where they were at, and not only that, just encourage them and just be like, look, you can do this. 100% you can do this. And to tie in the piece about sharing the gospel with Christ, it doesn't get much better than that. But
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's where, like, I think, I think God created everything here on earth for us to be able to tie to Him simply because He created it. But for me and how my brain works, and especially how our life has operated and worked, pretty much anything agriculture is so easy to tie in to the gospel that it's like it had to be designed that way because of how easy that it is. Like there's no other explanation for it, to be honest.
sure, yeah, yeah, absolutely. Look, you can jump in on the any questions for the top hand stuff for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would echo what you said. Impactful. I don't know that I've been to a spot. I mean, we've talked to a lot of people in the Western industry, and it certainly is somewhat of a closed industry. And I think some of that is suspicion because I think kind of like when I was a kid, everyone thinks you can just hop on a horse. It knows what to do. You just run out and every loop you throw catches, and you don't have to learn anything.
Oh yeah.
You have to be cautious of idiots like me. But I think that from a welcoming aspect and just giving people the confidence, as Matt said there, to believe they can actually do something, like go rope something, figure it out, work on a horse that just has no interest in cows or ropes, or maybe a gaited horse that has interest in neither. But it is really wild to see the amount of effort you all put into encouraging people at the clinics, to kind of building into them from a faith perspective, but also into people personally. Because I think even if people come in there saying, "Hey, like the gospel thing isn't my thing," you're not going to be like, "Okay, well then hit the road." You're still investing in them, and I think really leaving a positive perspective for people, one of faith, and then secondly of the cowboy culture and lifestyle, because of the way you handle your animals and your horses and families, of course, as well. So that certainly left a huge impression on me, and I think that was, I mean, I told Matt, like you have to go to this. I think this is kind of one of those once in a lifetime things for a lot of people. Now we've been a couple times, of course, but I know that requires sacrifice on you all's end. I know that requires kind of gritting your teeth quite a few times at idiots doing idiot stuff. But it's certainly something I'm thankful for, and I appreciate the impact, because it has been a positive impact. And we've gotten the opportunity to talk to y'all kind of at the events, outside the clinics, etc. But I mean, there's a lot that goes into building, going back to the success side of things, building and sacrificing so that you can kind of really pour into other people and invest in those other people. So I appreciate that.
Absolutely. No, that's what we really enjoy them. And I honestly end up like, I got to kind of take a step back, or I've got to slow down at times and some stuff, just simply because like we all started somewhere. So like you can't hold it against somebody for starting, because you never can get into it if you don't start it, and you're never going to, like, you got to be committed to sucking long enough to get good at something. Like there's a lot to be said about somebody that's willing to look foolish long enough to not look foolish.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure. You said one time, it was a good catchphrase, but that kind of stuck with me for sure. But you were like, "Man, it sucks to suck." Was the statement you made, and it was
I think it was right after one of us got rim fired or something, probably.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Sucks to suck, loser.
Yeah. Ironically enough, I do say that far too often, and it is one of Tanya's least favorite things for me to say.
Really? Tell her it's now been classified as an inspirational quote. So
So I'm gonna for sure have to say that.
yeah.
There you go.
But well, I know we're running on time here, so I don't want to hold you too much longer. I know it's a work night, and all of us have to go to work tomorrow. I did have one question, maybe around the success side.
I'm at your disposal. I can be as long as you need me to.
Oh, nice. I like it. So from like what you've learned, and maybe some of your ideas on success, like how do you view success personally anymore? And I think you've already talked about this a little bit, but like if you could say what success means to you as an adult, where you're at in this stage of life, like how would you define that?
Yeah. Well, like I was trying to think about that, like for an actual working definition or something, or like
Yeah.
how I like I said, like a lot of times my measure of the success that I have in something is like, does it or does it not bring me peace? So like, and to me, like comfort is not peace. Like I've been comfortable before, but not peaceful. So like, if what I'm doing, like for me to measure it being successful, it's got to be peaceful in my opinion. So like probably my working definition of success would be like purpose with peace. So like having a purpose but it also leading you to peace. Like having purpose while it leads you to peace or lack of restfulness or restlessness, I guess. Um would be kind of where that's what I measure how I make a lot of my decisions nowadays. Um, because like not that we've ever been wealthy, but we've been comfortable, and it didn't actually lead to the feeling of being successful or being at ease. Or like there was a lot of unrest still in those seasons. Um, and I think that that's kind of the second part of that is like seasons of life will determine where your success like kind of lies as well. So like there's going to be times where like you might need the new truck and it's not necessarily leading to peace like financially because you got to work harder, but it leads to peace because you know that you can get places or you can pull your trailer down the road or you can do different things like that. Um, and it doesn't have anything to do with the wealth of it. It just has to do with being able to provide or being able to get where you need to go. So that's kind of where I it took me a long time because I always thought, man, if I just had a little bit more, if I just had another if I had $10,000 here, if I had $10,000 there or whatever, but I kind of had to come to terms with that. I've got way more talent at spending money than I have at making money. So,
That's a great way to put that.
like I've got so much talent and it's a natural ability to be honest with you. Like I come by it honestly. Like it is a natural born talent for me to spend money, but I'm not nearly as good at making it. So sometimes I've had to come to terms with the fact that like it's never going to be about the wealth. It's going to be about the peace that the decisions that I make bring towards me.
That's great.
Yeah.
I like a good definition. I'm also going to steal your talented at spending money quote. I think that's pretty brilliant.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's funny.
If there was an NFL MVP at spending money, I think I'd be in the running with you for sure.
Oh yeah. No, you have no idea. I'm on a whole new level.
Get on my level. All right. So next question. This would be kind of the wrap up question. Would be so if you had to pick a person who you would consider maybe the most impactful person in your life besides your wife, because we have to exclude them from these conversations.
Mm-hmm.
Who would that be, and then maybe why?
Um. Well, we've talked a bunch about faith, so I guess Jesus Christ would probably be the most impactful on me eternally.
Hmm.
Um, but I guess kind of here for, and it has to do with as far as being like an eternal, impact, but also like it started as being the worldly impact here. Probably my dad has been one of the most influential people for me simply because like he's always been encouraging, but he's always been there to like kind of hold me accountable when I needed it, but also be able to read the situation well enough to know when I kind of needed lifted up and not kicked while I was down, if that makes any sense. So, like, my dad has always been super good about, like, he's a pretty big time dreamer. And I think that's part of where even society in general fails at times is because we just don't dream big enough. Like, I think that's part of that comfort versus, like, peace and success is that, like, sometimes the piece of going for the things big enough that God has called us for is going to be uncomfortable. But like, he doesn't call us just to survive, he calls us to thrive. And like, I've been able to like tap into some of that. Probably not near as much as what I should, and maybe more than what makes Tanya comfortable at times. But like, my dad is a dreamer, and like, he has faith in himself to know that he can figure anything out and that he'll do anything. But also like, he's still human like the rest of us. So like, he knows his limitations and he knows what he can and can't accomplish, yet it's not going to stop him from trying and from being willing to go that extra mile to try to do what he might not necessarily be capable of.
Right
So,
on, well said. And I think it's such a unique quality for someone to be able to be encouraging while balancing that with being challenging. I think that's something that's a tough thing to be able to do as a person. So
yeah, that's where like I've even had to learn, even with my own fatherhood of having a child, of like hold them accountable, but make sure that you're not kicking them while they're down, kind of a deal. Like, figure out how to hold them up without making them entitled, but also how to hold them accountable without stomping them into the mud, kind of a deal. So like,
yeah,
I'm still learning. I'm for sure not perfect.
yeah, it's a tough balance. I think that is the goal, though, right? We want to have hardworking, tough children, but
Yeah,
at the same time, we don't want to run them too ragged to where they feel like they really can't look to us for peace or for comfort when they need it. When it times get
exactly.
tough.
Exactly. That's where like, yeah, that's kind of the whole rabbit hole of discipline. Like, God might discipline us, but he doesn't discipline us to run away from him. Run away from him. He disciplines us to go towards him.
Yeah.
For sure.
So,
Yep, good point.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so once again, Koty, I thank you for your time. Appreciate it. This was good. I really enjoyed kind of hearing the summary of how you got to where you are.
yeah.
I have lots of cowboying questions, maybe some experiences there. Maybe we can do that some other time.
Oh yeah.
Get another evening from you. But yeah, again, appreciate you telling the story. It was interesting to me to listen in, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime.
Yeah, same here, man. I really appreciate you giving us the time and the opportunity to just get your story as well too. But also just throwing it out there as well. Like Luke had said in the beginning, it was super cool to hear what your version of what success has kind of been, and where you got to where you are today, and just kind of seeing and getting the opportunity to have a friendship with you as well, and being around you. Like you definitely always have some part of including your family into what you're doing, and the work that you're doing. And like Luke had talked about too, like the job that you're doing may not have always been something that was that was easy, and you had to overcome a lot of obstacles. But I think finding your passion and figuring out ways to hustle and make money off of it, but also still being able to include your wife and kids and the things that you're doing is super cool. And again, the main part, like you said, just being able to share your faith and spread the gospel, just super cool stuff.
No, absolutely, man. I appreciate it. I don't think the two of you guys realize just how much we value your guys' family. So we have always enjoyed it, and we hope to continue to enjoy it. So that's
Looking forward to the next time you come to Texas, and then leave us standing on the side of the road.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Well, I'll make sure that I come to Buffalo, Texas at some point.
There you go.
There you go.
Man. All right, you have a good evening. Tell Tanya and Barrett we said hello.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. Tell your families that we said hi.
We'll do.
Yeah, we'll do. See you, man.
Yep, we'll see you.